Have you ever found yourself scrolling through your games library, feeling as though you've nothing to play? Well, I'm all too familiar with this feeling. It's a bit like opening the fridge and saying there's nothing to eat, when there's plenty of food in there, but none of it looks appealing. My Steam library is over-encumbered with options, and yet I don't play any of them. There are many games on the list that I will never play again, and some never loaded for the first time. But how did it get like this? Could your gaming library be a representation of your own life? Perhaps a series of unfinished projects and ideas left to time? Sometimes I look at my oldest, least played games on Steam and download them to try, and promptly exit out. There's something about these games I just can't bring myself to play. Some games I have sunk hours and hours into, and the idea of going back to them all this time later almost feels painful. Like these games have taken a part of myself. Other games on my list look like they would just not appeal to me, so I don't even bother trying them. But there must be some games on the list that would bring me some sort of joy. I have over 400 games in my library, yet my attention usually only goes to 1 or 2 games at a time, and typically only lasts a couple of weeks before I move on. Regardless of this, I find myself consistently browsing the Steam store looking for new experiences, instead of searching through what I already own. I find myself scrolling through game after game, never finding something that appeals to me, always quick to judge and move on. I experience the same feeling when I'm looking for something to watch, searching through Netflix, Amazon, YouTube. I find myself in a black hole of indecision and disappointment, and just go back to the content I was watching or already playing instead. I feel as though what I'm really searching for is the joy of novelty, the feeling of being a kid again. It used to be easy to enjoy games when I was 10. Everything was new. Every game I tried felt so different from the last. Games like Metal Gear Solid, Dynasty Warriors, The Matrix, Tony Hawk's, Gran Turismo, the list goes on. But now most games feel like offshoots of older games that I've already played, and I find it hard to engage with them in the same way. Everything feels the same. I have since tried to play some of the games that I loved in the past through emulation, and while it's fun for the first 10 minutes seeing the old game menus, hearing the music, I can't quite bring myself to play it for much longer than that. I've been here before. I've played these games through, playing every aspect of it until I was finished. Come to think of it, I probably played these games for far longer than any of the games I have on Steam now, except maybe Counter-Strike. And I put this down to the fact that I had less options. Most games were given to me as gifts when I was younger, so I didn't even have a say in choosing them. And if I wanted to buy a game, well, I had no money, so that wasn't an option. Having such a small selection of games to try meant that those games were more valuable to me. I appreciated them more, and spent far more time with them because the next game wasn't coming for a while. It was the same for movies. Whatever we had lying around the house on VHS or DVD was what we could watch. There was no streaming services with thousands of options to choose from, so we watched one movie, over and over again. I've watched Revenge of the Sith and The Matrix Reloaded more times than I would like to admit. Perhaps this overabundance of choice is the reason for my dissatisfaction towards finding new gaming experiences. No matter how many times I browse the Steam store or my gaming library, I often leave with nothing. Most, if not all, of my gaming purchases are usually driven by suggestions from other people. Whether that be from friends or content creators, their suggestions pull that needle from the haystack, highlighting something that could be worth my time. And it's not surrounded by thumbnails or other potential purchases. I'm typically quite happy with these suggestions too, oftentimes finding a game I'll enjoy for a good week or two, before becoming part of the digital graveyard. Does the fact that most of our gaming collections live on digital platforms contribute to the graveyard? These vast, overwhelming gaming libraries were once small physical collections. These collections provided tangible value. I could read the manual for the game on the toilet, look in awe of the games that I owned, organise them, and be proud of what I owned. I used to love to open a new game and give it a smell. It smelt so new, but now our games are intangible, easily uninstalled and forgotten about. No physical reminders to say, hey, come and play me. Time and commitment is a large factor on whether I'll play a game or not these days. I don't have the same amount of free time that I used to, or energy. Gaming doesn't provide me with the same fulfillment that it used to, and I find myself wanting to do other things, like work. What would the younger me think? My enthusiasm towards gaming has waned, and when I do have time to play a game, I want to know that it will be good and not a waste of my time. The younger me was willing to look past these flaws, invest the time, and find joy in the mundanity of it all. So, I don't think there is an answer to the gaming graveyard. I once tried to make a series out of finishing my Steam library, and it lasted 1 episode. I think I knew back then that deep down, it was a pointless endeavour. There just isn't enough time to finish every game that you buy, get all the achievements, and waste time playing games that you don't enjoy. And even if there was, would you really want to? Equally, the same can be said for other aspects of our lives. So maybe it's time to move on, find new and better experiences, before we end up in the graveyard ourselves.